This is what's left of a build I was going to do that just wasn't destined to be, I guess is the best way to say it. I put quite a bit of work into this build. It was actually a build video I was doing, and then right at the end of the video is when I realized that something was wrong because it wouldn't post. And it's because the motherboard was dead. And well, I didn't know the motherboard was dead right away. It took quite a bit of diagnostics. I had to diagnose what was going on, and that is when I determined that the motherboard was dead. And not only was the motherboard dead, but it was murdered by me. Well, I'm glad I didn't put the side panel on because, yeah, we're having problems. I unplugged things just trying to do some diagnostics on it. But yeah, there's definitely something wrong. This wasn't just any motherboard either. It was an EVGA Z68 FTW, which just so happens to be my favorite brand. It took some time to narrow things down to the motherboard, but when I did, I went over the board with the fine-tooth comb, and that is when I was able to find out what was wrong with it and what the cause of death was. It was my negligence because just before starting the build, right after testing all of the hardware, my shop light stopped working because of a wire that broke off of the light socket. I cleared my desk and I put the motherboard aside, but I chose to not put it in a bag, and that turned out to be a big mistake. I figured it would only be the matter of a few minutes before I had the light socket repaired, and I would be right back to building the computer anyways. Repairing the light socket, I had to solder a wire to the light socket in order to fix my light that was in a kind of hard to reach awkward spot. While I was soldering, a ball of solder dripped without me even knowing. It fell right past my desk and it landed right on the EVGA motherboard, and I had no idea. The drip stayed on the motherboard through the entire computer build, and the second I powered that computer on, it was the death of that motherboard. It instantly shorted out, and it never worked again. I went through, tried to find a short and tried to repair it, but ultimately I wasn't able to do so. This got me rather upset. I really liked this motherboard, and I was looking forward to doing this build. I ended up putting the entire build aside, and it sat for a long time before I got back to it. Well, let me clear off my desk, roll up my sleeves, see what we have left here so we can finish building this computer using different hardware, better hardware. You know what? I really think this is going to be the perfect opportunity for that ASUS X79 Sabretooth motherboard with the Intel Core i7-3820 that we used in a previous video revisiting the X79 platform. You can go back and watch that video and you'll be able to see what kind of performance and what kind of value is still left in this hardware. You'll be able to see what kind of games we were able to play, how it was able to overclock the processor and the graphics card that we're going to be using, and you'll be able to see how well it really will do and what kind of frame rates that we were able to get with a lot of popular games. We're going to use this in replace of the EVGA Z68 motherboard that was absolutely horrendously murdered. We're going to use the same G-Skill Ripjaw X RAM that we used in the previous video. It's 16 gigabytes and there's 4 sticks. I believe it's going to be running in quad channel, but I'm not 100% sure. And it runs at 1866 megahertz. I got this air cooler that I'm going to be using. I got it from Amazon. I'm not too familiar with the brand. It's LGA 2066, so you know there's a select amount of coolers that you can get to work with the platform. There isn't as many coolers as there is for more popular platforms. It's got this really cool checker looking pattern on the back. I thought that was kind of cool looking, but not sure how much it's going to be seen from inside of the computer though. It looks bigger than, no, it's a 120 millimeter fan. It's a fairly large tower cooler. It should be able to cool our processor quite well. This is supposed to fit socket LGA 2066 right out of the package, but I had to file flat spots in order for it to fit in certain holes. The retention clip is actually in the way, and if I didn't file a flat spot like I did right there, it would have not went on. That one's still a little tight. Do a little wiggle. Alright. Plug the CPU fan in. And what I'm going to do is find a way to run the cable so it's not really seen from in the computer. It gives a clean aesthetic doing so. And then when I put this in the computer, I'm going to fold the cable around the back like that. Now the question is, do I want to plug in the cables before putting in the motherboard, or just put in the motherboard? Unlike the previous motherboard, this one only has one 8-pin ESP cable. The other motherboard had two. Usually these cable kits only come with one, and the other one that I had, I actually made. I turned a regular graphics card PCIe cable into so it would fit in an ESP cable hole header.
we'll make do. Make sure everything's lined up. Make sure everything's gonna go in correctly. Looks like that's it. We've ran into a problem. So this is for the front panel control, power button, reset button, power LED, whatnot. So this is like a standard, all motherboards tend to have this standard pinout, and so they use a solid connector for this on this case. And this motherboard does not have a standard pinout. It's kind of an older style that you used to see more so, and because of that, this isn't going to work, and I'm going to have to depin that entire header and repin it into these old ones. That way I can put the right cables onto the right pins. That way this case will be compatible with the motherboard, which I don't know why Z68 didn't do that right from the start. I mean, it seems kind of dumb. Like, what do you expect, nobody to use your case outside of normal? Like, you don't expect anybody to put older hardware in your case? Like, you can only use it with new hardware that uses this header. Most people ain't going to know how to do this. It's going to really throw them off. They're like, well, what am I going to do now? But really, these are kind of easy to depin. I'm sure there's all kinds of videos on YouTube on how to depin these. But it's just it's that little pain in the butt thing that might make it so somebody can't build in their case. That could stop somebody from building. So I pulled this out of some older case. I usually use it on like a test bench, but we're gonna save the power button. It looks like this it only has one button, so just these will be fine, but we're gonna have to depin these and then basically repin them onto there. And you have to be really careful when doing this. There's a little tab right here. You can get your pair of tweezers up, and you kind of just pick it up out of the way just slightly, and then you could pull the cable right out like that. You want to make sure you don't pull too far back, because you'll break the crip. Break the crip. Wow. You'll I can't talk. You'll break the clip off, and you won't be able to use this. The cable will just slide out. So you could also probably slide these on the pins without having the plastic. I don't know how good of an idea that would be. That's what I would do if I didn't have these. I mean, it'll work, but another thing you can do is, if you didn't have these little plastic parts, is you could just put a piece of shrink wrap over it. You depin it, put a piece of shrink wrap over this, and then just use it like that. It'll probably work just fine doing it that way. I'm not going to unpin these all at once because I don't want to mix them up and get confused. This would plug in like that. That would make this the power switch. Now with the power switch, there's no negative and there's no positive, so you don't have to worry about pulling the correct negative or the correct positive. But you do have to worry about that when you're using the power LED or HDD LED. So now that those popped out, they'll slide right into this. Of course, you gotta put them in the right way though. There is a huge storm about to break out outside here in Buffalo, New York. So it's pretty bad out there. You hear the wind and the storm brewing in the background. So we're going to pick off the power LED next. And I'm going to start with the positive. You could go on the internet and look up what the pinout for this is. I know it by heart. Like, it's in my head, so I don't have to look it up. I even know the non-standard pinout that's on this motherboard. I know that pinout is also planted in my head. I've just done this for so long. I memorized them. Like I said, be very careful with the ones you want to use. You don't want to break the plastic retention clip. But there we go, look at that. We have converted it. Crisis averted. We got front panel hooked up, we got the fan hooked up, and then all we have left to do is these, and we'll start cable managing. We'll install the card and then start cable managing. I'm going to be using the GTX 980 in this computer. It is an older graphics card, but there's still lots of value left in it, and there's still lots of gaming performance left in it. Its biggest setback, I would have to say, is the fact that it has 4 gigabytes of VRAM only. But even with that, it still can play some games pretty decently. I actually made a video using this exact same platform with the Sabretooth X79 motherboard with the same processor, and I used this graphics card. You can go to that video to see, you know, what kind of gaming performance we're able to get out of this graphics card and what we were able to do with this performance in general. So I think in that video we proved that there is still lots of value left in this platform. And I think this is the best graphics card that I have right now that will pair with this system, and it'll make a decent, you know, little budget gaming computer for somebody to buy, whether, you know, they want their kids to play Fortnite or Roblox or Grand Theft Auto 5. There's still lots of games that this can play. We were even playing Warzone on it. Like I said, you'll have to go and watch that video if you'd like to see a deeper dive into what kind of performance it has for gaming nowadays. Alright, I got some unconventional screws we're putting in here. I didn't want to put like all kinds of mismatch. I didn't want to. I wanted the screws to match, okay, guys, and these are all the matching screws I had at the time. Unfortunately, we have to deal with a flathead screwdriver, and we can very quickly see why flathead screwdrivers were completely eliminated, just about out of existence. I mean, what benefits does a flathead screwdriver or a flathead screw even have? Yeah, this is fun. Here we go. Okay. We still, nope. Alright, take two. Take two. Here we go. Second try. We got it. We got it. Nope. You don't got it. Alright, here we go. Take three. Take three. Maybe we could thread it with our fingers. Thread it with our fingers. We'll go about this a little differently. There we go. No. No. Wait. Oh, do we got it? I don't think we do, but... Oh. Yes. Success. I would like to formally apologize to the person who has to deal with these screws in the future. I know you're going to be really mad at me, and I'm sorry. Yeah, that's all I can say. I can, I just hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. Good luck with these screws, buddy. The top one went in much easier. Look at that. Sometimes I clip these off, but we're going to leave it in case the person who buys this computer in the future would like to install a different graphics card. We're watching out for future compatibility. The complete opposite. At the same time, we're screwing them over with screws, with no pun intended. Okay, come on. There we go. Oh, that's it. There we go. Alright, so obviously we're going to do the cable managing and come back after we get everything situated and clean these cables up. If we were to get them all perfectly set right now, we would install the power supply and they'll all be out of whack again. So there's no point in straightening any of these cables out until we have the power supply installed and all the cables tied down. I have this older non-modular power supply that we're going to be using, so we have all of this cable that we're going to have to deal with, which is kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt, but I think we can make do. This is definitely an older power supply. You can tell it's a 760 watt power supply, and it was made for SLI. So think about having a computer that has a number of different graphics cards in it and only needing a power supply that is 760 watts. So that really kind of shows you the age of the power supply. I wanted to save everybody from the painstaking process of cable managing this mammoth power supply and computer in general. I think cable management isn't really something we need to really dig into. Everybody has their own way of doing it, and yeah, so here we go. Just like that, cables managed. That was basically the last big task of building this computer, other than straightening the cables, the red cables on this side of the computer, to make them look a little bit better. The build process is basically done, so let's take a look over our work and then put the side panel on.
Well, that's it for this build. If you'd like to see more gameplay from this exact platform, I made a previous video that is a deeper dive into the X79 platform. I used all of the same hardware that's in this computer. You can get an idea of what kind of value the hardware still has and what kind of performance you can expect out of it. I'm going to list this computer on the marketplace for $350. Stop into Custom PC Builders on Facebook for an update and you can see what price the computer sells for there. Thank you, come again.